Welcome to Alter Everything, a podcast about data science and analytics culture. I'm Maddie Johansson, team lead for multimedia community content at Alteryx, and my guest today is Luke Miners. He's been on the podcast before, and he manages our digital customer success team.
Like the idea behind the team that we've built now is thinking about how we can assist every customer to make sure they get value out of using the platform.
Luke and the team are super excited about helping folks benefit from Alteryx. Whether you're an individual user or a leader who's driving organizational change, Luke will share how his team is creating prescriptive experiences for everyone to find success. Let's get started. Luke, thanks so much for joining me today. Super excited to have you. We're on the podcast, I think, over a year now ago.
Yeah.
And I think when you were here last year, you described your role as, you were like, I don't know what my role is at the moment.
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, so I think your role has definitely transformed over the past year. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself and share what you do at Alteryx?
Yeah, definitely. I think, my life's changed quite a bit, as has like the world that I now work in, which is good. I've been involved with Alteryx for about 6 years now. I work for a customer, a partner, and then obviously for Alteryx in solutions and then in customer success. And I was in a bit of a between state last time we spoke, but now I've got the pleasure of leading our digital customer success team, which has just passed its first birthday, which is very exciting.
That is super exciting. And yeah, your team is doing some really amazing things. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about, because we really are passionate about our customers and we love seeing them have success, whether that's seeing somebody get Alteryx certified, or maybe they get promoted because their workflow helped automate a super tedious process, or used Alteryx to find huge cost savings for their business. We hear these stories all the time. So what are some ways that your team is helping folks find this success?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like the idea behind the team that we've built now is thinking about how we can assist every customer to make sure they get value out of using the platform. So thinking about how we can deliver a personalized digital experience and proactive sort of customer, it's not support, but success and different programs to enable that. One of the best things about working for a company like Alteryx is we do have loads of fans and people whose lives are genuinely enriched by using the software. So those conversations that you mentioned are actually what brings a lot of us to work every day. With regard to what we're doing and thinking about how to make customers successful, or what we're driven to support our customers doing, if you think about any purchase, the success of that particular purchase or a subscription or whatever it is around whether you gain value out of it. So I'm a bit of a music fan, Maddie. I'll use Spotify as an example. Do you have a Spotify subscription?
I've told people in the past I would pay more for Spotify if they made me. Like I love it so much. I use it 24/7.
See, that's a great example, right? How, like, do you have to justify making that subscription purchase every month?
No, absolutely not. It's a must do.
And
Like if I was
spend
strapped
more
for
for
cash, exactly. Like if I was strapped for cash, I would find budget for it.
So the value you get from Spotify is completely obvious to you and really easy to determine, right? You have every song that you might ever want to listen to right there. There's no longer going into a record store or carrying tapes around in your pockets or anything like that. You gain loads of value out of that. Now, using something like Alteryx should be the same. And that's really what we're focused on ensuring is the Alteryx user is aware of the value and the benefit they get from using it. And they've also got all the materials to enable them to keep leveling up and finding more and more value and getting more and more like aha moments of success. So we aim at helping those customers to find that value and then also to enable them to verbalize or express that, giving them an opportunity to level up their career or help the business and the company they work for, like roll out more digital transformation or analytics across all. Like you'll have seen analytics for all is what we're really focused on doing. So we're constantly learning from our customers' stories and data and industry trends to build out what is a ideal customer journey. And then as a team globally, we are focused on taking that customer journey and providing an ideal digital experience to help customers learn, adopt, and then transform the way that they're working with information and analytics and just in general, the way that they operate.
I'm on the community team, so I get to see what folks are talking about in the discussion forums on the Alteryx community every day. And, every person's journey is different, which is amazing and super cool to see those different perspectives. But for me, and probably for some of our community top contributors, I think if you ask them, they'll be able to recognize that there are certain trends and FAQs and, over time, how those things change. And so, can you tell me more about these overall data and industry trends that you mentioned that your team is really tuned into?
Yeah, certainly. So there's two levels, right? There's are the users or the people using Alteryx day to day, are they being successful? And then an organization who's made an investment with us, are they getting the organizational benefit? We see tons of trends around the analytics and data transforming the way organizations work. You only have to look at the big companies are being really successful now are built around their backbone is analytics and using data to optimize the way they're working. So we see an opportunity there to assist our customers to grow and succeed in that realm. We see, digital transformations talked about loads, but on average, organizations are only at like a 2.2 on the analytics maturity scale. So we see tons of opportunity to level up the organizations that have a relationship with us in the space that we're working in.
I really want to talk more later on about the 2.2 average on the analytics maturity scale.
Yeah.
Lots of things to dive into there. But first, I want to stay on the success topic. Earlier, you mentioned like customer success being different than support. Because I think, when you have a problem and you hit a roadblock or you can't get past something, that's where the support comes in. But I feel like success is something different. So, success with Alteryx, and historically, we've seen this in tech. It can come really easy for some folks. They try it once and immediately they're super comfortable. But for others, they might be intimidated or afraid that they might struggle. And so, if I were to think of an example, I can't drive a manual car. And by the way, I looked this up recently. Is that funny because most Europeans can drive manual? I feel like that's
Yeah.
okay, got it.
We're slowly moving the American way of adopting the automatic car, but yeah, everyone learns on a manual.
For the record, you can drive a manual car, Luke, or
I can. It's a skill that I have. Yeah.
okay, got it. Because there's people in the London office who I've talked to, specifically Will Davis, who told me that he can't drive. But anywho, I did look this up recently. The New York Times says that only 18% of Americans can drive stick. So I'm in the majority over here. But yeah, it's opposite for you guys over there. But anyways, I've had people in the past explain how this works to me, and I'm absolutely sure that I can learn how to drive stick. But for me, the most important thing when I do decide, hey, it's time I learn this skill, the most important thing for me is that I get somebody who's super patient and calm to teach me. So those are my requirements for learning it. So circling back to Alteryx and learning Alteryx, what are some common hesitations that you see in the fields that maybe you'd like to debunk, or maybe share what you think people are looking for in terms of that support so that they can find new success?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And you mentioned community, obviously the team, the area that you work in. When I first started out in this role and we started thinking about building this program, and I looked at the community and that was what I saw as what the digital customer success team was before we had one. Now, some people are predisposed to being able to go and find information and that's the way their brain works. And maybe it's how they were brought up or the generation or maybe even just their attitude towards learning. And I'm actually fortunately one of those people. Like that's how I taught myself when I first picked up Alteryx, is just by searching and finding that information. Now, not everyone's the same. So that's why we need the team on top of the community to be proactive and provide choice and like immediacy and personalized opportunities for people to learn and grow. Like you say, adopting new technology or concepts is different for everyone. So we go back to the music example. When I was much younger than I am now, like people still listen to music on like tapes and Walkmans, and then we
Yeah,
had
same.
CDs, and then I remember when the iPod came out and I went and I saw the iPod and decided to go and buy some other random MP3 player from Creative, I think it was, and immediately regretted that decision. But I was able to learn and move with those things, but not everyone adjusts to those changes. Like we now have Spotify. I know for a fact that my mother is not anywhere near as proficient at using Spotify as I am. Like she can still listen to music, but people pick up things in different ways. And if you look at the move from spreadsheets or SQL or whatever the data like transformation and analytics world people live to learning Alteryx, you have a different learning curve, different journey. Everyone's on a different path because of their own background. And obviously, as soon as someone gets it, the light bulb clicks, and I've seen this countless times, the value that you suddenly get, you realize that pays off and to get to that point. So we have programs in place to be able to understand customers, learn from their behavior, what they care about, where they currently sit, and then provide them with personalized, customized experiences, enabling them to understand how to leverage it. So people are able to very quickly get up to speed because we've understood the perfect path, and we've provided them materials and support and the avenues for getting information that particular user will need.
Totally. Yeah, just to recap that, the community is a really great place to find answers and learn proactively. But I think your team has really helped with providing new things to help folks learn proactively.
Yeah, of
Um,
course. And the community is really great. Someone might get a license and not understand necessarily how to use it. It's being provided with something and not knowing how you can free yourself and go and leverage the software that you have. So occasionally users in that position might need to be provided with material around ideas or use cases or help within the industry they're working with in the job line or the department. So it's things like that we're looking to be able to help. Otherwise, individuals will just sit there and stare at that blank screen, and they'll never transform the way they're working.
yeah, it's more about really developing learnings from those answers that you find on community to your specific questions and really strengthening your data analytics skills like a muscle. You're approaching it from a kind of holistic view. So when we talk about how your team is doing it, the digital customer success team, what does success look like for our customers then?
This is the eternal question. And as we've just discussed, it's very different from user to user or individual to individual. However, it's also different between someone who's sitting and working on their laptop in Alteryx Designer or Auto Insights or whatever the product is that they know and love that they can leverage, and the organization that they're working in who have made this decision to go on a analytics transformation journey, because at that organizational level they're looking for some different success. So again, it's understanding where everyone starts from, whether it's an organization or an individual or both, and how we can provide value and those success motions to both of those.
Okay, so we have the individual user and then we have the organization level.
Yeah.
So let's start at the individual level. How can these individual users define success for themselves and set meaningful goals for learning
Yeah.
Alteryx?
Yeah, so we think about we have an individual user, let's call them Will Davis, and they need to go on a journey with Alteryx, right? They've just been given a brand new license. Their pathway and their vision is based around their original desire for using that software. So maybe it's their original use case. Now, they don't necessarily have the answers, but people within those job roles where they can leverage Alteryx are problem solvers at heart, really. So we provide self-service opportunities and resources for those to go and answer those questions, but it's about being able to provide someone with a leading hand to take them to those. So let's take onboarding, for example. We've created on the community, in fact, is our customer onboarding. Now, this is a big output for us. Have you seen it?
Yeah, the customer onboarding is awesome on the community. I love seeing also the feedback that you guys have gotten. There's so many likes on all of the different modules and so many comments with people saying how helpful it is. And you guys are making it fun too with the gamification and the badges that you can earn as well.
And it's a really good point you raise, right? Like when we're thinking about the experience that we're building for our customers, we're not comparing ourselves to like for like organizations, but we are thinking about the typical digital experiences that people have on a day-to-day basis. You don't necessarily need to come to work these days and live in like a really standard worky environment. So we are looking at your Spotify's and Netflix's and Amazon's and those sorts of experiences in how we provide a digital success program to our users. For instance, when you open up Netflix, they recommend you the next film that you might want to watch, or I think at the moment it's like top 3 or 4 recommendations, and that gives you value because it saves you time and it might open you up to something new and that kind of thing, and it's also personalized. Same goes for Spotify. Like you have a yearly data dump which like
Hmm.
gives you all this information about how successful you've been with using Spotify and all the things that you've learned and where you are and that kind of thing, and that gives you that feel good factor, and that's the sort of experiences that we're looking to develop for the users. Whatever the path you have to take, we're trying to find the right pathway for everyone individually, and obviously being aware of all those resources enables you to be successful, and the digital customer success team is there to help everyone get there.
And I just also love how the digital customer success team has really created a plan. I'm kind of a big planner. I definitely love to see the vision of like how I'm going to get somewhere. So, like, just a quick anecdote, like for me, years ago, when I was told, you have to be Alteryx core certified within a certain number of weeks, it really felt like somebody saying, like, hey, we're going to go hike this super high mountain right this second. So for me, I mean, like, I love hiking, but I also, like, I respect the process of, day up. You got to make sure you have a nice breakfast. You get up early, beat the heat, beat the thunderstorms, just like all of these things that go into planning a successful hiking day. And so similarly with Alteryx, I knew that I just wanted to make sure I had like a plan in place and steps and for me to get there. There are a lot of resources on the community in addition to onboarding, like the academy, there's learning paths and things like that. When I was learning it though, there weren't those things and onboarding wasn't a thing either. And so again, just like coming back to the gamification, earning badges, like that positive reinforcement that your team is providing is super, super helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And what you describe with the hiking is a prescribed path to get to your end goal. And for us, it's what are those steps that someone needs to take? And that is a personalized journey. And maybe the end goal is their original use case gets built out and they've solved their first analytical challenge. But everyone knows that's only like the beginning of Alteryx. There's all this other stuff that you can be doing. We are there like holding everyone's hands through digital experiences so that they have everything they need to go and become that power user or someone that really benefits from using Alteryx or, in their day-to-day life.
Totally. Let's shift to talking about at the organizational level. What are the things required for organizations to have success?
I think for a lot of your listeners, there's likely people that are aware of things like the user groups and the community and the benefits of sort of social opportunities to problem solve together and things like that. That's global and it's massive, and every one of the 300,000 active community members like benefits from that. Now, the same thing goes for within smaller pockets in organizations. And so that analytics culture within every company that has, it doesn't even have to be Alteryx, it's just a way of working, is super important. If you think about those companies that start their journey with Alteryx, their initial requirement is specific, and that's why they are interested and they go and find an analytics automation platform. But across the board, we see that trend of digital transformation and businesses looking to make better use of their data in more and more ways. It's the tons of examples of how, whether it's Amazon understanding customer data and providing a better customer experience and better recommendation, it's organizations optimizing how they do their financial reporting, it's Spotify who benefit massively from user information and therefore how they can promote different music. Organizations are becoming more and more data driven, and being able to enable individuals across the business to democratize that analytics is the way that you get most from Alteryx, from the platform. And then obviously the analytic maturity, which I mentioned earlier, that 2.2 metric, which I can come on to, is what gives us an indication of like how well an organization is building their analytics practice.
That's so true. I mean, literally just yesterday, I was recording another episode where we had a guest on from Snowflake talk about how data governance and democratization enables further self-service. And I feel like we've touched on that about how like all of our users really just want to be self-service. So it's like a really good positive reinforcement strategy where if you've successfully completed an analytics task on your own, the more likely you are to keep diving into it and learning more and finding more value out of it. But yeah,
Exactly.
so I'd love to let's circle back to the analytics maturity model. Can you talk more about this?
Yes, it's an industry benchmark we like to leverage to help our customers understand and view themselves where they are. Because for us, a lot of Alteryx users are advocates. There's just tons of opportunity because of the amount of broad applications and different tools and all that kind of stuff can be overwhelming, but there's opportunity to improve and update. And for those of you who have gone on that journey and been using Alteryx for a number of years, you'll attest to the fact that you constantly uncover new ways of using it. So we leverage or refer to this study done by the International Institute of Analytics, who have a 5-stage model of maturity. And this obviously just then allows organizations to benchmark themselves against others in their industry, um, to understand where they're at in the progression of how analytics can transform the business and provide better success and improve whatever KPI or business initiatives that they have in place.
So the 2.2 where most people are, that average on that 5-point scale, what does that 2.2 mean?
It's a really good question. Obviously, any rating has a load of context behind it. And we've actually developed a really good application which allows someone to go in and take a quiz around their organization, which will provide an output, a report that lets you know where you're at and gives insight into what you can do to improve and build upon that. And it's very much based on analytics, that sort of culture, right? So the 2.2 actually only represents that less than 1% of knowledge workers are analytically capable within that organization. Like around a 1 is an analytic beginner. Stage 2, which is the average, is around actually just using localized analytics. So small pockets of individual analytic, not even experts, but people that are able to leverage data and analytics tools. And you move up that scale to become analytic competitors or organizations that are driven by analytics. And there's tons of things to do around that maturity with how you what the culture says, how data is leveraged within that organization.
So, in a perfect world, can you share an example of maybe what a success plan would look like for a people leader trying to ramp up a team, trying to increase their ranking on the analytics maturity scale?
Yeah, this is one of the things that my team and what we're trying to do globally is really focused on is delivering a prescribed success plan for either an executive or someone who's an analytics leader trying to improve and democratize analytics across the organization. Or maybe it's a success plan for an individual user. But in answer to your question, trying to ramp up a team of analysts and develop analytics culture, obviously your starting point is to know where you are on that maturity scale. So you take the quiz, download a report. Sure, the link will be in the show notes,
Mhm.
and then build a plan around the recommendations in that document. Now, these recommendations are along the lines of things like leveraging your analytic innovators and early adopters. Now, Maddie, are you aware of the bell curve, the analytic adoption or the technology adoption bell curve?
Tell me about it.
It's quite an old concept, but I think it's called Rogers bell curve. And it describes how on the very left-hand side of the bell curve, you've got this tiny percentage of innovators who are people who are at the forefront and willing to go and try and really take on new technology. You've then got early adopters who are the next lot, larger proportion. They're the ones who are going to really push forward and also adopt technology earlier on. And then you move into the sort of like larger proportion. So you have the majority and then laggards who are more interested in waiting out to see the proof of things before they adopt technology. So find those power users or the people who are really going to drive forward the change in way of working and leverage those. And then there's things like enablement and training. You've mentioned it a few times, gamification. So that can be done internally with user groups and building our community around those who use data and analytics within that organization. And things like hackathons and demo sessions and people doing presentations and showing people what they're doing. A lot of this comes from just general socializing around work and collaborating. I'm a big fan of collaboration, and I've seen lots of situations where when you bring together, um, I'm going to say Alteryx users, but it could be anyone who just leverages data and analytics within an organization. When you take them from one part and another and get them communicating, you suddenly share tons of ideas. And someone in tax might not necessarily have a solution for someone in marketing, but when they're talking together about the solutions they're building, there's so much cross contamination that can really build that the capability cross functionally.
Yeah. And before we move on to a success plan for an individual user, I guess this applies to both, honestly. I think this is good for everybody. But just as you said that your team is really focused on trends and you really have your finger on the pulse of like where the industry is going and like conversations that are happening there. Um, it's just so important for these leaders to also be tuned into that. I think probably they already know this, but I think, it's just important for everybody to like always just pay attention to what's going on, learn from their peers, learn from other organizations what they're doing. And yeah, just stay on the cutting edge so that they can take the success planning and the support and the community that Alteryx is providing and couple that with all of the trends and learnings that are happening in the field overall.
Exactly. There's a marrying, and what we take as a team is marrying our understanding of each individual customer that we're working with or trying to deliver success to, and our understanding of what works, what doesn't, and like history of that kind of thing. And we also take that industry information and trends and things like that around whether it's gamification or analytic maturity and things like that. We bring all that together and provide that prescriptive plan and be able to suggest those things. So imagine you're leading a team of analysts and you provide them with an Alteryx license, and maybe in your one-to-ones you understand, you don't necessarily know that Alteryx is doing it, but you know what those individuals are doing on a day-to-day basis. Like, put yourself in those shoes. Like, you can get enabled to understand the progress that team's making from the data and the information that your team are doing. So I use data and understanding and information on my team to see what their progress is. So what we're trying to do is obviously provide context and indication to organizations on how well they are generally improving their analytic culture and analytic output across the business.
For sure. Moving on then to the individual learner, what would be some things included in a success plan for those folks?
Yeah, same thing again. It's just understanding where you're at and then building out and building a plan there. So the certifications are like an absolute must for upskilling. Obviously, the community is where everything starts, and then once you've gone through your onboarding on the community, I would suggest thinking about that certification and where you can get to with it. There's tons of information to help you around learning paths and things like that, but even just trying the certification. You mentioned it earlier, Maddie. It sounds like your certification's run out. You need to take it
It
again.
expired. Yeah. Don't
So
tell
make so
anybody.
here's I hope you Maddie, I hope you're listening here. So you can use the certification to keep upskilling, but also there's the weekly challenges. Like I would say never stop doing those
Mhm.
because they expose you to so many different ways of using Alteryx through other people's solutions and also use cases and different data sets that you don't see on a day-to-day basis. I know what it's like. I've been there before working for a bank, and you get the same data set, same fields, same information that you're working with all the time. So it can be really refreshing just spending 20 minutes a week trying to work out how to map two different data points and the shortest distance between them or something like that. So always keep doing that. Know your way around community, so how to search and those top articles that are always lifesavers. The CSMs here at Alteryx have so many different links in their back pocket that have all of the information to help people solve typical challenges. Make sure you're aware of those and those things available. The Tool Mastery series is one of those. And then I mentioned it earlier, but once you've solved one use case, you're set for life. There's tons more to do. So think about where you can get inspiration, whether it's attending user groups or speaking to other people in your organization. Or there's even like the use case navigator on the Alteryx website, which allows you to just go through and find different write-ups of what people are doing with Alteryx. And then obviously there's Inspire and our conferences and talks online, which give you a taste for how other organizations or individuals are using the product.
Yeah, and I'll shout out one more too. This is brand new as of recording this today. We are starting to post tips and tricks videos. So
Ooh.
they're very short, like 1 minute long max, typically of tips and tricks that you can do in Alteryx. So like how to design and organize your workspace or some fun hidden Easter eggs if you like are going crazy and you need to play a game in Alteryx. There's hidden games in Alteryx for those who don't know. And so we posted a tips and tricks article to show you how to get to those games. And so you can just have a little bit of fun in your day.
Yeah, I did not know about that, but I will
It's brand new.
be
Yeah.
singing praises there. We had a long conversation as a team about how we could deliver like TikTok style information, and it might still be on the pipeline.
We should work together on that. Yeah. Real life behind the scenes Alteryx work planning going on right now. But yeah, shout out to Mike Cusick. He's our senior multimedia producer on the community team. He's just done a great job of making these videos. Just a little bit of background for our listeners who have been to Inspire. The tips and tricks breakout session that we have at Inspire, it's usually like standing room only. There's a long line for people to get into that room. And so these videos are taken from past tips and tricks breakout sessions at Inspire. So for those people who really like those quick tips, these will be really good for them. So is there anything final that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, tons of learnings from what we've built over the last year, and it's been a really good journey. And I hope to see that customers, start benefiting massively from that, and we get good feedback. Whether it's good or bad is fine, really, in my eyes, because I think one of my main takeaways really is feedback is like a really good way to always give back. What we've been doing is learning from everything that we have built and rolled out, and so feedback that we get from customers, feedback that we get internally, we're constantly learning and updating what we're doing. And one of the things that I was telling you earlier about is the way that this has affected my life is when you go through like airport security or use a public toilet bathroom, and there's like a button, set of different colored buttons that say like, how was your experience today? Or like,
Like
how was
happy
airport
face,
security
sad
today?
face.
Exactly.
Hmm.
I now will go out my way every time to just hit a button based on how I felt, because that's a data point and a bit of feedback that someone's going to benefit from. So like whether it's just telling Microsoft Teams that you had a good experience that time, or like that your connection was slightly bad, all of those touch points are so important for other people to be providing better experiences to everyone. Yeah, it's a learning for me. It's just always providing feedback and being part of that loop because it's beneficial for everyone.
Thanks for listening. To check out the onboarding content Luke mentioned, as well as the analytics maturity model assessment, check out our show notes at community.alteryx.com/podcast. Catch you next time.
So you mentioned before that you like football, soccer.
Yep.
So I'm going to London after Amsterdam.
Yeah, you said this.
Should I go to a football game? And if so, who should I go see?
You're going to be in London, so you've got a choice of quite a few teams actually now. 5. I would recommend you go to, it depends. Are you looking for good sport or good experience? Tottenham Hotspur, their brand new stadium that's digital experience for you. Like there's a YouTube video about how they use data around the stadium to understand where to put stalls or merchandise or like beer and things like that. So that's, yeah, their stadium's super modern and really exciting. But I would recommend you go see Brentford because that's my local club.
Okay. Are they good?
They are exciting.
Okay. Cool. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, their stadium's relatively new as well. So I think you'll be fine. It's just not quite as expensive as the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Got it. Yeah, I'm always looking for a bargain. Except for with Spotify.
Want to pay more.